Alright guys, I'm back with another chapter in 2 Kings. We're in 2 Kings chapter 16, where the header reads, Ahaz rules in Judah. And we'll get right into it. Ahaz, son of Jotham, began to rule over Judah in the 17th year of King Pekah's reign in Israel. Ahaz was 20 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 16 years. He did not do what was pleasing in the sight of the Lord his God, as his ancestor David had done. Instead, he followed the example of the kings of Israel, even sacrificing his own son in the fire. In this way, he followed the detestable practices of the pagan nations the Lord had driven from the land ahead of the Israelites. He offered sacrifices and burned incense at the pagan shrines and on the hills and under every green tree. Then King Rezin of Aram and King Pekah of Israel came up to attack Jerusalem. They besieged Ahaz, but could not conquer him. At that time the king of Edom recovered the town of Elath for Edom. He drove out the people of Judah and sent Edomites to live there, as they do to this day. King Ahaz sent messengers to King Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria with this message: I am your servant and your vassal. Come up and rescue me from the attacking armies of Aram and Israel. Then Ahaz took the silver and gold from the temple of the Lord and the palace treasury, and sent it as a payment to the Assyrian king. So the king of Assyria attacked the Aramean capital of Damascus, and led its population away as captives, resettling them in Kir. He also killed King Rezin. King Ahaz then went to Damascus to meet with King Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria. While he was there, he took special note of the altar. Then he sent a model of the altar to Uriah, the priest, along with its design in full detail. Uriah followed the king's instructions and built an altar just like it, and it was ready before the king returned from Damascus. When the king returned, he inspected the altar and made offerings on it. He presented a burnt offering and a grain offering. He poured out a liquid offering, and he sprinkled the blood of peace offerings on the altar. Then King Ahaz removed the old bronze altar from its place in front of the Lord's temple, between the entrance and the new altar, and placed it on the north side of the new altar. He told Uriah the priest, use the new altar for the morning sacrifices of burnt offering, the evening grain offering, the king's burnt offering and grain offering, and the burnt offerings of all the people, as well as their grain offerings and liquid offerings. Sprinkle the blood from all the burnt offerings and sacrifices on the new altar. The bronze altar will be for my personal use. Uriah the priest did just as King Ahaz commanded him. Then the king removed the side panels and basins from the portable water carts. He also removed the great bronze basin called the sea from the backs of the bronze oxen and placed it on the stone pavement. In deference to the king of Assyria, he also removed the canopy that had been constructed inside the palace for use on the Sabbath day, as well as the king's outer entrance to the temple of the Lord. The rest of the events in Ahaz's reign and everything he did are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Judah. When Ahaz died, he was buried with his ancestors in the city of David. Then his son Hezekiah became the next king. That is the end of chapter 16, guys. And so, one thing that I find myself reflecting on after this passage, again, we're continuing to discuss the timelines of kings, and what I find interesting is, whether good or bad, the timeline of rule is just vastly different. Some people, one man did what was great in the sight of the Lord and lived to be 52 years, but battled with leprosy for all 52 years of his reign. And there's all these different back and forth expectations that we have when it comes to, if he was living rightly by the Lord's sight, then, he must have had an easier go. And that's not the case. We even reflect on that. And it's interesting for me to reflect on that. I've been doing these passages and reading in my Bible every day, which is it makes me happy that I'm looking for that relationship with God. but it hasn't made every day easier. And sometimes we relate those things to one another. Say, well, I'm following God now. Everything should just get easier now. And I'm here to tell you that that's simply not the case. In fact, I often feel like the deeper that I go, sometimes the more trouble that I find. And that can be kind of discouraging. And we can think sometimes, oh, that's, you know, why am I doing this? Why am I going through these trials and tribulations and these frustrations when I'm doing what He asked me to do? And I'm in my Bible and I'm trying to listen for His voice, and I'm trying to love people the way that He wants me to love them. And sometimes it just seems like it gets more and more difficult. And you wouldn't think that that'd be the case. But oftentimes, the greatest difficulty of that is that little piece of us that needs to die, that selfishness that doesn't want to open up the book today, that frustration or laziness that doesn't want to reach out and help somebody that we know we can help. We know we have the resources to help them, but we just don't want to because it's an inconvenience. When we become more aware of how absent He is in our life, implementing Him there or simply just submitting to Him and allowing Him to permeate everything, remember what I just said. Say, sitting there, to be still enough for Him to permeate everything, to be patient enough in wait and action with intention. Allow Him to move you instead of you simply wanting to do your own thing and then Him having to clean up the mess. There's so many things that have become more difficult for me because in reflection, trying to want to be closer to God, more of me has to go. I had to make room for all of Him. And He takes every inch of me, all of it. I can't, there's not a single spot in my body that I should have of me left if I'm truly pursuing Him. He's too big. That's why, one of our first commandment, there shall be no other gods before me. What makes you think that you could have any more room in your heart or your brain or your body for anything but Him? That's a painful realization, especially for someone who's actively pursuing Him, like I'm trying to do my best right now. There's so much of me left. It's painful when you're getting rid of it because that's what's got me to this point. I need to go further, and the only way to do that is with God. So those parts of me got to die. They got to die every day. And that's tough. It doesn't feel good all the time. In fact, most of the time it doesn't feel good. But I know He has victory planned for me. It's already an expectation. I simply have to submit to it. Sometimes the submission to it isn't very easy, but I'm doing my best. And so that's where I sit here reflecting on these stories, knowing that whether the king was good or the king was bad, did exactly what God said or didn't, that shouldn't impact the worship that we give to God. Regardless of how good of a time you're having or how easy or how difficult, it doesn't matter. He's still the God of everything. That's kind of the point. It's just difficult to align with that when you feel like, well, I'm doing this for you. It's not transactional. It's submission. And there's two very different things. And so that's where I'm at right now, and that's where I'll probably be for quite some time, having a tough go at it. So on that note, have a good night. God bless. I love you. Jesus loves you. And I'll be back for 2 Kings chapter 17 tomorrow, where the header reads, Israel exiled to Assyria. Hoshea, I'm not sure how to write, Hoshea, Hoshea, rules in Israel. So have a good night. God bless, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.